Good morning. For those of you that have hopped on already, we will give it a couple minutes and let people join still, and then we will go ahead and get started. I don't know about all of you, but my computer's telling me it's currently 15 degrees here. So that's almost like a heat wave. So I'm kind of excited that we made it out of single digit numbers for the first time in days. We'll give it about another minute. Numbers have gone up slowly still, so we just want to make sure everybody has a chance to join before we start. Um, so we'll give it another minute or so and then get going. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us so much on this early Monday. I guess it's not too early anymore. It feels early. Monday morning. I know it's cold out there, so thanks for joining us. Trying to stay warm. Um, just to give you a couple of housekeeping things, your microphones are muted and your cameras are off. When we finish this session, you will get a Zoom survey that pops up automatically. That just gives us feedback on the session and ideas on future sessions, webinars you would like to see from us. We do take a look at those, especially when we're looking for ideas of upcoming trainings. So please do check that out. Um, and we can get some feedback from you. Then you will receive also a second survey that will come to your email that you registered for this session with. And that survey will be the one that you have to complete in order to receive your CEUs. So if you do want your CEUs, please be sure to keep an eye out for that second survey that will come to your email and complete that. Normally that comes pretty quickly. There were some kinks last month when we ran these sessions, but it seems to have worked out since then. So you should get your email pretty quickly, normally within 24 hours, honestly. And then the survey or the CEU will automatically come once you've completed the survey. Um, so again, this is for those of you who haven't joined us on some of these other sessions, this is part of our DCFS series that we're doing. These are just meant to be short, really brief snippets into a variety of topics. So right now we're doing toilet training. If you're looking for more sessions, we do have one this afternoon as well at 1 o'clock, and that is on recognizing one's personal trauma. And these are all from a caregiving lens. So, looking at how trauma can impact our abilities as our role as caregivers. And then on Tuesday, so tomorrow, we will have a session on ACT for caregivers and another one on mindfulness for caregivers. And then finally, we'll be wrapping up the series on Wednesday. We'll have a session on recognizing the signs of maltreatment in children through a trauma-informed care lens, and that will be at 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, followed by a 10:30 session on stress and anger management and problem solving with decision making. And then finally, a 1 o'clock session on understanding child development. So again, those will be the remainder of the DCFS series that we're presenting. But do keep an eye out in your emails. We will be having some more upcoming sessions being announced soon for the new year. We've got some exciting things that we're really looking forward to sharing with you all, and as we get started with the new year. And then we're also going to be gearing up for our annual conference at the end of March. So keep an eye out for announcements for those. So I think that's all I have. So we will let Abigail take it from here. So thank you, Abigail, for joining us.
Hi, everybody. My name is Abigail Floyer, and I am a board certified behavior analyst at BCBA, and I appreciate you all logging on this morning for the presentation on toilet training. Okay. So a little bit about me. I have worked with children ages 2 and 8 diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder for the last 7.5 years. I've provided clinic-based applied behavior analysis therapy to these children throughout that total time. I do specialize in functional communication training, potty training, and skill acquisition, all while using the principles of applied behavior analysis. And we do provide an emphasis on family guidance. Many of our family guidance sessions are revolving around toilet training. And currently, in my role, I lead 5 different autism clinics within our organization and help guide them to provide ethical and quality services to their clients. So throughout this presentation, we will be discussing toilet training. The purpose of this toilet training is to potty train a child that has shown some readiness skills. And this toilet training is a quick 2 to 4 day process. And hopefully by the end of that process, that child can successfully remain dry and void on the toilet. And so some of the steps to success first are displaying toileting readiness. Next, they must have an established functional communication method. The child should tolerate remaining seated on the toilet. We'll discuss the process of actually conducting the toilet training, so the intensive toilet training. And we want to maintain that potty trained status. We don't want all of the kiddos' hard work to go to waste, and we want that skill to stick. Okay. So first we will discuss toileting readiness. So how do you know if your child is ready to begin potty training? Some of the things that we look for, and these aren't all requirements, just kind of the more of these readiness skills that the child displays, likely the more success that you will see while you are conducting the potty training. We want the child to respond to reinforcement. So if we give the child something, does it increase the response that we want to see? Are they able to follow simple instructions such as sit down, come here, do this? Are they aware of the need to urinate and to have a bowel movement? Do they seem uncomfortable in a soiled diaper? Are they able to remain dry for 2 hours? And do they have the fine motor skills to pull their pants, underwear, pull up, what have you, either up or down? Also, are they able to button and unbutton, zip, snap, what have you, with or without assistance? Can they sit still for 2 minutes? Do they tolerate the toilet and the restroom in general? Do they have some type of word, sign, visual for using and requesting the restroom? Are they able to request the restroom using whatever that communication modality may be? And have they urinated on the toilet in the past? Like I said, these are all not prerequisites and requirements. It's just the more of these skills that the child is able to display, likely the more success that you will see while you are conducting the toilet training. Throughout this presentation, I will have several handouts that I'm happy to share. At the end of the presentation, I think on the last slide is my email address, and feel free to reach out, and it can also be added into the chat, and I'm happy to send any of these handouts to you. This is just a handout describing the toileting readiness checklist that we just went over. And you can add comments. For many children, these things all look different. And so the comment section helps kind of narrow that down. After the child has displayed some type of readiness skill, we will talk about tolerating the toilet. And so many children, they are not exposed to the toilet often, or when they're in the restroom they only have to go to the bathtub. They don't have to go to the toilet and wash their hands. It's a whole new routine. It's a whole new thing that we're asking the kiddos to do, so we need to first work on them tolerating the toilet in that space. And so we want to make that space highly motivating and fun. It's kind of a party. So we want to incorporate the things that they enjoy, such as small treats, small toys, something that can be tangible and something that can be special for the restroom. We will practice transitioning to the bathroom. And so throughout the child's day, they will be given the instruction to go to the restroom to just practice that skill and that transition from point A to point B, where point B is the restroom or the toilet. And we will gradually increase the amount of time the child is remaining seated on the toilet. So this can start at 30 seconds. I've also worked with children where we needed to start at 5 seconds, or, you know, all that we were able to start with was the kiddo simply sitting on the toilet and standing right back up. And so wherever your child needs to begin, that is perfectly fine. And we will just continue to build up from there, all the way up to 5 consecutive minutes of the child remaining seated on the toilet without engaging in any type of frustration. Here we go. So when we tell a child to go to, it often is helpful to incorporate some type of visual so that the child can see what you are trying to say. And so my recommendation is to utilize a visual similar to this. So something very simple, not very distracting. And it's always my recommendation to take a picture of the actual toilet and restroom that the child will be utilizing. While we are helping them transition to the restroom, we also want to pair this with some type of functional communication. So it's important that the children that we're working with have some type of established method of communication. And this could be a variety of things. So they can have vocal requesting, picture exchange, using a small photo of the bathroom or the toilet and giving that to you to indicate that they need to go to the restroom. A speech generating device so they can push a button and the device speaks for them and lets that communication partner know that they need to utilize the bathroom. And we want to pair the transitioning to the bathroom with requesting to use the bathroom. And so this may look prompted and facilitated, and at the moment it is, but we will continue to work on this skill so that it can become an independent and spontaneous skill. How this looks is we will show them the visual to go to the restroom, and we'll say go to, and we'll point to that picture of the bathroom. And as we can see that they attend to that visual, we will prompt them to utilize whatever their communication system is to request the bathroom so that they know that this request in walking to the bathroom gives me access to this room in this setting. And so that could look like, say, I need to go potty, or whatever is best for that child is a perfectly great phrase to use. So, it could just be the word potty or restroom, whether they have some type of assisted communication device, whatever it is, I would just suggest remaining consistent with whatever that phrasing may be. We also can incorporate additional visuals to increase this understanding of transitioning to the restroom and utilizing this communication modality. And so, something that we utilize often in my setting is a first then statement. And so, first potty, then reinforcement. So, first, whatever the task is that we want them to complete, then some type of item that the child finds desirable, and that we know that if we use this item, they may be more prone to um, requesting or following and completing what we've asked. And then that go-to picture that was previously shown. Here are additional visuals. So you could always take a picture of the toilet that you are planning on conducting the toilet training at. We have illustrated visuals. We have visuals with, a child sitting on the toilet, demonstrating exactly the skill that we would like to see. And then, of course, we can pair a picture of the toilet with the word as well. And these visuals can be used for transitioning, or they also can be used as part of that communication modality if they're using some type of picture exchange. But like I said with the verbal phrase, we would just want whatever the visual is to be consistent as well. This is an example of that first then statement. So first sit on potty, then Skittles. And so this is a photo displaying exactly what we would like to see the child completing, and then a visual of what they will receive when the action has been completed. There we go. So, sorry everyone, I'm having a hard time transitioning my slides today. So the child is able to transition to the restroom. They are able to sit on the potty for up to 5 minutes. They know how to communicate and request to use the bathroom. Now we can begin the process of conducting the intensive toilet training. Intensive toilet training has several steps and components to it that we will discuss, such as preparation, fluid loading, initiation, dry checks, time on the toilet, time off the toilet, void versus no void in the toilet, and accidents. So, as we're preparing for the toilet training, we need to keep in mind that we will be spending the majority of our time for the next several days in the restroom. And while we're in the restroom, we will be playing, eating snacks, providing instruction, likely cleaning up some type of accidents. Whatever it may be, we want to collect all of those supplies prior to the toilet training beginning so that when we are in the middle of this process, we can focus on the child and focus on the training that we are conducting. And so we want to gather some highly preferred items to be used as a reward for avoiding on the potty. This can be some small toys, edibles, drinks, whatever the child enjoys and prefers. I do suggest, finding some novel items, some things that would be new to the child, or things that they just really, really love and they don't get too often. We want this reward to be very, very reinforcing and something that will really motivate this child to go on the potty because we are asking a lot of them. And so the more that we can motivate them, the more willing they will be to, complete this really hard instruction. We'll gather some moderately preferred items to be played with between sitting on the toilet. So throughout this process, the child will be going on and off the toilet, and each time they're on and off the toilet, there will be different expectations based on whatever toileting phase that the kiddo is on. And so while they are off the toilet, we want to remain in the bathroom, but we want them to still be entertained, but not have access to those really special items. So we'll utilize some of their moderately preferred. They're so-so. They like them, but they don't love them toys. We'll have extra underwear on hand, and we want that underwear to be light and solid. And the more light, the lighter and the more solid that the underwear can be, the more easily you're able to see if the child has some type of accident. We want diapers and pull-ups to be out of sight. Um, Out of sight, out of mind is kind of what we're thinking. Many children are in a routine and they rely on those routines, and so they are in the habit of wearing these pull-ups, and we want them to be in the habit of wearing underwear. So we want to remove the pull-ups and the diapers from the restroom, from the area, and encourage the child to be utilizing underwear. And we'll gather any necessary cleaning supplies, such as Clorox wipes, paper towels, rags, what have you. There will be accidents, and the child will void off the toilet at some point during the day. And so it's important that you're able to have the supplies to clean that up. All right. So, kind of what to expect while you're in the bathroom. Um, like we discussed, we'll identify a few highly preferred items or snacks that can be withheld for successful voids only. And so we'll keep these items special for the moment when the child does in fact void on the toilet. We will be your child's cheerleader, so provide lots of praise and lots of encouragement. We're asking this child to complete something very difficult and something that they have never done before or have not done often. And so it can be hard, and we all know that, the more you challenge yourself and the more people challenge you, sometimes the more frustrated you can become. And so we want to mitigate that frustration and provide just so much praise, encourage, and we want this to really be a fun and positive time for the child. Utilizing timers to remain on schedule and to provide auditory cues to the child is a great little hack that you can do. And so this helps you stay on track. It helps the kiddo know what to expect. They are very helpful. We'll monitor the child closely for accidents. Throughout this time in the restroom, the child, some type of parent, caregiver, provider, and the schedule can remain consistent. And then for also the child, you can monitor if they're and visualize if they're having an accident significantly more easily. And like I said, we will spend a lot of time in the bathroom. This process could take several days until the child's remaining dry for at least 2 consecutive hours. And so that is our goal. The goal is for the child to remain dry for 2 consecutive hours and for the child to be voiding on the toilet. Like I said, the child will be on and off the toilet, and while they're on and off, there will be different expectations for that time. As in, we will begin with only 5 minutes. Throughout this whole process, the child will spend 5 minutes on the toilet, and gradually time will increase off the toilet. So we are expecting them to stay dry for longer periods of time as we are moving through this toilet training. We'll begin with 5 minutes off the toilet, and we'll work all the way up to 2 hours. And every time the child has a successful void, and as in they go potty in the toilet, they will increase to the next phase. And so there will be more time off the toilet. Every time the child has some type of accident and does not void in the toilet, we will move back a phase and they will have less time off the toilet. And we'll keep going through this, this back and forth. Hopefully it's more forward than backwards until the child has reached that final phase of 2 hours off the toilet. We're asking the child to urinate quite frequently. That is something that's necessary to move through those phases. And so that requires a lot of fluids to be consumed. And so we will conduct some fluid loading. And so fluid loading is incorporating some type of preferred beverage throughout the duration of the intensive toilet training. And so kind of while the child is in those initial phases, phases 1 through 3 or so, they're 5 to 15 minutes off the toilet. We want to make sure that drinks are always accessible and that we are encouraging and prompting the child to take drinks every few minutes. If we want the child to drink at 5 minutes, at 10 minutes, or void, I'm sorry, if we want the child to void at 5 minutes off the toilet, 10 minutes off, 15 minutes off, that's going to require a consistently full bladder. So we will need to consistently be consuming fluids. When the child is off the toilet for longer, so 30 minutes to 2 hours, we of course want to make sure that the drinks are still visible and accessible. We don't want to, you know, prevent them from consuming beverages, but we may not be prompting them to be drinking them as frequently. This gives the child more time to, for their bladder and their bodies to reset, and they can drink more so as they please. So throughout this, we will, similar to how we're training the child to request to use the restroom with that transition. We'll teach the child how to request to use the restroom with every time we're on and off the toilet. And so this is a moment where those timers are very helpful. And so after the potty timer indicates that it's time to sit back on the toilet, we'll prompt the child to request, to use the bathroom. So how this looks is we're on the floor, we're playing together with those moderately preferred items. Our timer goes off and it's the end of the 15 minutes and it's time to sit back on the toilet. So our timer's going off and we'll say it's time to go potty. We'll remove access to what we're playing with. We'll take it and we'll hold on to it and we'll require the child to request potty prior to them sitting on the toilet. And so this can be when they use their verbal communication, their speech generating device, picture exchange, whatever is best. We'll prompt them to utilize that communication modality and we'll sit them on the toilet. Once they are sitting on the toilet, we'll provide them with some behavior specific praise. So we want the child to know exactly what they are doing correctly. And so with that, rather than saying just good job, they could be doing a lot of things well. We want to say, good job sitting on the potty. Awesome telling me you need to go potty. And so we want to really encourage those responses that we want to see increase. While we're playing on the ground during those times off the toilet, we will be conducting dry checks. So about every 15 minutes or so, we'll check to see if the child is dry. We'll teach the child the difference between wet and dry. How we will plan on doing this is the child will be in their underwear and we'll say, are you dry? And we will put the child's hand very, very, very gently, on their underwear. And we'll say, yes, you are dry. And we'll provide a small reinforcer such as a mini M&M, part of a chip, something as simple as tickles, whatever the child, likes, that is what we will use. And so these visuals here kind of show these underwear at the top. Those are a great example of undies to wear throughout toilet training. They're solid, they are light colored. Those I'll be able to easily see if there's an accident or not. Whereas the underwear at the bottom, they are significantly darker and they have much more pattern and they will be more difficult to see if an accident has occurred or if the underwear are wet. While the child is sitting on the toilet, so this is a maximum of 5 minutes at a time, we want it to be an entertaining and positive experience, but we also want to remain relatively neutral. And so we'll continue to provide that behavior-specific praise. Good job sitting on the potty. I like how you're sitting. Things similar to that. We do a lot of songs, Itsy Bitsy Spider, something that's interactive and fun, but it may not be their most favorite thing in the entire world. There is they'll sit on the toilet for 5 minutes or until void. It's whichever one comes first. If the child is sitting on the toilet and they void after 3 minutes, then they can come off the toilet. And so as the child kind of puts these two and two together, we often see successful avoidance happening within the first 1 to 2 minutes of sitting on the potty because they know, well, the sooner I can just go potty, the sooner I can get off and play with my most favorite items and watch iPad and eat a cookie. While the child is off the toilet, they should only be wearing underwear so that one, it increases the ease of pulling the underwear up and down. You know, don't have to put pants up and down as often, but also it helps you be able to see if an accident or is currently happening. We'll allow access to neutral toys and play with the child. We do not want to allow access to highly preferred items. Those should be saved for successful voids. Um, you'll be on the floor with the child, so it's a very much um, you know, eye contact, and we are on the floor with them. We're on the child's level, playing with them. We want, continue to build rapport and our relationship throughout this process. This will also help the child's willingness to complete some of these more difficult things that we're asking of them. We will be on the lookout for accidents. We want to catch these as soon as they occur. It's important that it is an um, immediate recognition rather than, delayed. So the more immediate we can catch it, the hopefully more training and teaching we can provide to the child. And we want to be near the toilet for the ease of the transition on and off. And so if the child is playing throughout the clinic or the house, whatever the setting may be, and they have to run all the way back to the bathroom at the end of the 15 minutes, that can be quite tricky to get the child back into that room. And so our suggestion is to remain in the restroom if possible, and that's why we encourage you to bring so many toys and activities to make it a fun place for the child. It also is nice to remain in the restroom because, like I said, accidents will occur and they often occur when you're least expecting them. And so I don't know about you, but I would much rather prefer to clean the accident up in the restroom rather than on um, some type of couch or a carpeted room. So we are playing on the floor. Our potty timer goes off. They request to use the restroom and are sitting on the toilet. It's about 2 minutes into the 5 minutes, and they are going potty on the toilet. And that's so awesome. That is what we're here for. We want them to be voiding. We want to have this potty party. This is awesome. And so it's important when these situations occur that we handle them appropriately so that they continue to occur. So we want to deliver a highly preferred edible item or small physical item. Excuse me. And so this is, those are these items that the children have been asking for. That I really want an iPad. Come on. Well, you can have iPad when you can go pee on the potty. And so they're so motivated for these items. They really want that iPad. They really want that chocolate chip cookie. And so they are so excited to finally be getting those. We'll deliver lots of praise immediately following the end of the urination. The end is important. We want to wait to deliver praise until the child has finished voiding. We don't want to scare the child and, startle them and they stop peeing. And so that will allow them to finish their void and then we'll be, wow, you went pee on the potty. Oh my goodness, so awesome. All of that stuff will really hype them up, will be their biggest cheerleader. This is so exciting. We'll remove the child from the toilet immediately following the end of their urination. We'll help them pull up their underwear. and then they will be allowed 5 minutes of free access to their highly preferred items and snacks. And so during these 5 minutes, they can play with those number one items, and it's really their time to be reinforced, decompress. It's a huge, huge success whenever this happens. And then we will move on to the next phase. So if we're on phase two, 10 minutes off the toilet, then we'll increase to phase three, 15 minutes off the toilet. And so this is really what we're here for. We're here for these potty parties, and we want these little parties to continue throughout this whole toilet training process. The more often the child voids on the toilet, the more the quicker that the child is completing their toilet training. They won't void every time, and that is okay. We will just try again. Um, if the child isn't voiding frequently, then I would consider increasing their fluid intake, or maybe those highly preferred, those special items, they may not be preferred enough. And you'll have to kind of go back to the drawing board and come up with some alternative things for the child to be motivated by. All of which is okay, and it's all normal. I know that often, I'm not motivated for the same thing all the time, and so why should they be? So we'll have to just kind of pivot with them and just keep moving forward. And so the no voids on the toilet, this is following that required 5 minute sit and there's no successful void. So we'll remove the child from the toilet and provide some type of neutral statement, such as, that's okay, we will try again later, or something similar to that. We just want them to know that it is in fact all right that you did not void, and well, this is something that we'll continue to work on. And we will stay at that current phase. So if the child is on phase two, 10 minutes off the toilet, we will remain at phase two and we'll go back on the potty in 10 minutes. An accident off the toilet will definitely occur. It often occurs more so at the beginning of the phases as the child is beginning to learn the correlation between the timers and the toilet and the reinforcement, everything. So it just takes a bit of trials, honestly, to get us to reduce the accidents off the toilet. So once we see the child voiding in the toilet, we'll immediately say no or stop in a loud voice. Sometimes this can be accompanied by you clapping your hands. And so now is the time when we do want to attempt to startle the child to get them to stop voiding. We do this so that they can hopefully finish their void on the toilet and still have access to some type of reinforcement. So we're noticing the accident, we say stop, and we sit them on the toilet. Once we sit them on the toilet, we'll begin that 5 minute timer. And if they finish voiding on the toilet, then we can have that potty party. And that's so exciting. And I'm so glad that they finished that void. They can have access to reinforcement. This time only for 2 minutes rather than 5 minutes. But regardless, we can move to the next phase. They were able to eat half a cookie instead of the full cookie. Whatever it is, that's still a win. If they have an accident, they are sitting on the potty for 5 minutes and there's still no void, then we will continue with these following steps. So we'll remove the child from the toilet and help them pull up underwear. And in a neutral tone, we'll say, pee goes in the potty. And we'll put the child back on the toilet, but this time for just 1 minute. After that 1 minute is over and they haven't void, we'll remove the child, put them into dry clothes, and we'll repeat this process a total of 3 times. And so they'll have 1 minute on the toilet. We'll say pee goes in the potty. They can get off the toilet, and so on and so forth for 3 times. At the end of those three times, if they have not voided at all during those 1 minute intervals, then we will decrease to the previous phase. So if we were 15 minutes off the toilet at phase three, we will decrease to phase two and remain at 10 minutes off the toilet. If the child does void during these steps, we'll follow that void and toilet process and allow access to a preferred item for those 2 minutes. And so it's still a win. Every time the child voids in the toilet, then we will in fact increase to the next phase. So it doesn't matter if it's with or without an accident, we'll still move forward. Of course, the more the child avoids without an accident and just is, voiding on the toilet during those 5 minute sits, then likely the more um, impact your training is having on the child. But that's part of the reason why this process takes so long, 1 to 3 days, 2 to 4 days, because sometimes it takes a bit of time for it to click for the child, and that's okay. Every child learns at their own pace, and it's important that we just work with them and we continue to be their cheerleader and their reinforcer throughout this process. So it's important to get the whole family involved. All the caregivers, all the providers, anyone who's important in the child's life should be involved in this process. And I say that for a few reasons. One, for the child's benefit. So if, a child is with grandma for the day and they're conducting an intensive toilet training, we want grandma to know exactly what to do during these moments and so that the child's training can remain on track. It also is important for the parents' benefit. So if, the child transitions between mom and dad, the collecting some type of data like this will kind of help communicate what occurred while he was with mom, and then what occurred while he was with dad, and then when he goes back to mom, whatever the situation may be, um, keeping some type of a system or data collection to remain on track is something that I recommend 100% of the time. Also, it's important to collaborate with the whole family because you'll need a break. This is a long time in the bathroom. You're asking your child to complete some very difficult tasks, and it can be stressful at moments. And so, if you're able to tap out and data goes in, then that's awesome. That will help continue to keep morale high, keep motivation high, and those are the things that we really want to see. So, this intensive toilet training program mainly covers, those daytime hours. And so what do we do at nighttime? Some of the things that I can recommend are limiting beverages 1 to 1.5 hours prior to bedtime. And so we want to reduce, the natural desire to urinate. We'll use potty right before going to bed. We'll incorporate and establish potty into this bedtime routine. And so, like we already mentioned, that children are very much routine based. And so, if we can establish these and incorporate these restroom breaks within the routine, hopefully, the more success that you see. Some families still opt to put the child in some type of pull-up or diaper on throughout the night, and that is perfectly fine. My recommendation is to wait to do that until the child is asleep. And so this kind of goes with that out of sight, out of mind. And so I've known many children to think, oh, I have a pull-up on. I can just go potty in here. I don't need to go to the toilet. I can go into this. And so this helps reduce that. I also would recommend putting this over their underwear as well. The intensive toilet training program also does focus on urination rather than bowel movements, partially because we are able to more so predict and control when an individual needs to urinate rather than when they need to have a bowel movement. And so my suggestion to you is to find a pattern of these bowel movements. What time of day does the child generally have a BM? Are they large? Are they small? As in, is it a partial or a full BM? If it's a partial, when are they going to have their part two? We'll save the highest reinforcer, most preferred items for BMs. I've known many people to make um, they honestly call it a poop shelf in the bathroom. And so they bring their child to the dollar store. They collect, fun little trinkets and gadgets and such. And the child has these all displayed in front of them on the toilet. So when they go number two, they know exactly what they're working for, and it's very exciting, motivating, and reinforcing. And we also want to look for some telltale signs. And so many children have some type of go-to facial expression or a preferred area of the house that they like to have a BM in. And so if you notice either one of these things happening, then I would begin kind of that accident procedure. So I would say, stop, no, and have them request to use the bathroom and sit them on the toilet. Sometimes when a BM is in question, you may have to sit the child on the toilet for more than 5 minutes. Um, that's okay. If it takes the child 7 minutes, 10 minutes, what have you, to have that successful BM in the toilet, then by all means, that's completely worth it. We want this to really be trained and be solidified. And so if it just takes a few extra minutes, that's just fine. This is not an easy process. It's not a quick one. And, there are many challenges to come, but to just name a few, we want to prepare to battle boredom. So we'll collect a variety of moderately and highly preferred items. Like we mentioned, motivation can change and fluctuate throughout the day and throughout the toilet training process. And so we want to be able to pivot with those changes and be prepared. Accidents happen, and that's okay. We all make mistakes. We all have accidents, and in this instance, it's the child not voiding on the toilet and voiding in their undies, and we will just teach them the more appropriate alternative. We won't, um, we won't be mad. We won't be frustrated. We'll just keep moving forward. To help prevent those accidents, we'll stick to that correction procedure and to the schedule as well. And we want to incorporate all caregivers to ensure consistency across adults. It's very hard to establish a routine and to learn a new system when adult A and adult B are implementing things in different ways. And so we want everybody to be incorporated and aware of this training as it goes on. While the child is, some more challenges is that they may have fear and anxiety with voiding on the toilet. And so this is a part of the reason why we want to teach them to tolerate that toilet and the restroom and help them through that. And we'll make it a potty party. It's going to be a fun and encouraging place. And yes, they have a lot of work to do and it's going to be a long day, but we want to make it, as fun as possible. Um, it's also loud. The toilet flushing is loud, so if the child needs to step out while you flush, headphones are necessary. If it's better if the child flushes instead of you flush, whatever it might be, those are whatever works best for the child is perfectly fine. And of course, you want to prepare for tears and frustration. There likely will be tantrums and refusal during these moments. I would suggest, trying to show the child and remind them what they're working for, what those highly motivated items are. We can use that first then statement. Let's first pee on potty, then iPad. Or sometimes it's nice to just have a break. We can let the child, just hang out in the bathroom for 5, 10 minutes, maybe without their, preferred items, and we can just let them have a little brain break. No instructions are being given. They can just relax for a minute. And sometimes that reset helps us get back on track. When these challenges do occur, how we react is most important than why they occurred in the first place. So we want to remain patient and calm. We want to incorporate other members of the household. Like I said, if you need a break during this process, then by all means, phone a friend. And if that is what keeps morale high and keeps the child on track, then that sounds like the best method in the moment. We also want to reduce the temptation to compare each child's progress. You know, big sister, she might have just decided to wake up one day, put underwear on, but little brother is having a more difficult time and needs to, utilize this training. That's all right. All children learn at different paces, and it doesn't make, you know, any child right or wrong. We just have to learn with them and determine what is the best method for that particular child. And we'll remain on the child's level. So if the child is on the bathroom floor, we'll sit on the bathroom floor. If they're standing and jumping around, we'll stand and jump around with them. This helps us build rapport and trust, and we really want the child to be willing to, listen and comply and follow some of our instructions. And so the more trust that we can build with this child, the likely more correct responding we'll see. And so you've conducted this training, and so what is next? Well, we want to maintain that potty trained status. So we will decrease the amount of reward the child earns for voiding on the toilet. We all know that it's not typical to, be rewarded with a cookie and iPad every time you void. And so instead of allowing 5 minutes, we'll allow 4 minutes with the iPad. And we'll gradually decrease that time until they're avoiding without anything and they're okay with just going potty and leaving the bathroom. We'll continue to provide behavior specific praise for the skills that you'd like to increase and to see maintain. And so even if they're not receiving an iPad anymore, it's still important to tell the child, nice job peeing on the potty. I like how you're sitting on the potty. We still want to provide that praise. We all like to be encouraged throughout our everyday life. And since this is something that we really want to stick and was very hard for the child to learn, we'll continue to provide that specific praise. We also can focus on other daily living skills such as hand washing and dressing so that the child can continue to be independent and increase their self-advocacy while in the restroom. Hand washing and dressing are both very large tasks filled with several small components. And if we break them down, we can teach those components step by step. And so we'll teach one step at a time. And as the child is able to master and really become independent at one step, we'll add the next one on. So it's just kind of building blocks until they're able to conduct the whole hand washing routine by themselves. Something that's very helpful with these large tasks is using some type of visual example. And so you can use stock images such as this, or you can take pictures of the child themselves, of your hands, whatever it is, some type of visual to display what steps come next. It can be very, very helpful and increase the likelihood of success in these situations. Similarly with dressing, we'll teach this skill step by step, and we will start with the very first step and continue to build on to that as the child becomes more comfortable and is able to conduct that previous step. We can utilize different types of dressing examples here as well. We can use an example for taking clothes off and taking clothes on when we had to, transition from our pajamas into our school clothes, whatever it is. These visuals can be very helpful. So overall, my tips for success would be to take your child to the bathroom immediately after waking up for the day. This will help establish success early in the day and help incorporate this into their daily routine. We'll look for precursor behaviors until your child is initiating. And so if you see that, that little scrunched up face in the corner by the couch, like, he might have to go potty. And we'll, continue to teach that child to transition and to request to use the restroom. We'll continue to provide praise and reinforcement to help him maintain that skill. And so we'll gradually decrease the amount that we are providing reinforcement, but we'll continue to praise so that the child remains encouraged and we continue to see that skill. We can rotate the tangible and edible rewards. We want the child to consistently be motivated and we want to pivot with the kiddo. So if they used to love monster trucks and now they love animals, we'll get some more animals. And that's all right. We'll save pull-ups and diapers for nighttime only. We'll limit access to fluids 1 hour before bed and we'll ensure that the child uses the restroom immediately prior to bed. And we'll teach those large, intimidating tasks and we'll break them down into small, accessible units and skills so that the child can have access to that reinforcement and the opportunity for that praise. This is my contact information. My email is here at the bottom, aflare@hope.us. It has been wonderful chatting with you all about toilet training, and I hope that as you conduct this procedure, you are able to have a little bit more confidence.
Thank you so much, Abigail. There were a couple of questions that came up in here. The first being, is there a recommended beverage that's best to use for a child who refuses to drink water for that fluid loading?
So, a lot of children use juice, or we kind of dilute the juice with some water so that to reduce their sugar intakes. Something we recommend not drinking is milk, as the milk can really, fill the child up, and it also can, cause some bowel issues for better or for worse sometimes. And so, kind of if we can avoid an upset tummy in any capacity, then yeah. But my go-to if the child doesn't prefer water is to have some type of diluted juice or kind of that water enhancer where it's just kind of clear liquid that you can squeeze. And so that's always also a good alternative.
We definitely did a lot of that with our kiddos. Until they found out that we were diluting the juice, then we were kind of out of luck. Um, Another question that came up is, does this training, training a child in this way lend itself well to training two children at the same time, such as a neurotypical 2-year-old and an autistic 4-year-old? It says the 4-year-old thrives on routine and the 2-year-old thrives on being helpful and loves to help his older brother.
Very sweet. Honestly, I have never attempted to tag team this training. I don't see why it would not be successful. I think that it would just still be important to have individualized reinforcers for both children. And so rather than them both working for the same thing, then I would suggest making sure that each of their individual preferences are accounted for. The only tricky thing would be if each child had to, use the toilet at the same time. And so I don't know if you have like a two restroom household, that might be something that's helpful. And then during that time off the toilet could be the time that they're playing together, and the time on the toilet can be in separate restrooms.
Yeah, that's something that definitely I know we ran into when one of my children potty trained at daycares. There was almost this like not competitive nature, but this like, monkey see, monkey do. Like, I have to use the toilet. Now I do too. And so then they were both needing to
Yeah.
use it at the same time, which could be problematic at times. Um, let's see. Bridget said, I've seen some parents put the diaper on and then the underwear over it during the day. How would you recommend addressing that with parents who are nervous to go no diaper at all or to go no
Yeah,
diaper all day?
so we generally do the opposite of that. We put the underwear on the skin and the diaper over so that the child can feel the sensation of the underwear. Um, if if it's best and that might not be where every child can start. So starting with diapers and then underwear on the top would still be a nice place to start. Um, and then if as time progresses and they become more comfortable with that, then maybe swapping it to underwear on the skin and then gradually removing the diaper completely would kind of be my suggestion is to just kind of take those baby steps into the child tolerating underwear.
These are great questions, everyone. Please, if you have any more, feel free to drop them either in the Q&A spot or in the chat. There was another question that came up about the timing of phases, but you got to that later and that was answered. Um, I don't think I've seen any other questions come up. Um, but if you got we got a couple minutes left if anybody wants to add any more questions. Um, as a reminder, please, at the end of this, there will be the satisfaction survey through Zoom, followed by you'll get in your email the required survey that you need to complete in order to receive your CEUs. So once you submit that survey, you should get your CEU pretty quickly after that. Um, and again, we do have another session today at 1 o'clock, and that one is recognizing one's personal trauma. If you have not signed up for that yet and are interested in participating, please feel free to do so. There's still time to sign up. And then tomorrow let me double check the timing here. At, sorry, at 10 o'clock, we have the Act for Caregivers session, and that's another hour session, followed by at 12 o'clock, there is the Mindfulness for Caregivers session. And then finally, we'll be wrapping up with the Wednesday sessions, and that's a 9 o'clock session on recognizing the signs of maltreatment in children, followed by a 10:30 session on stress and anger management, and then finally, understanding child development at 1 o'clock. So, if you're looking for any more sessions in this series, in the DCFS and child or caregiving series, please feel free to check those out. I haven't seen any more questions come up, so thank you all so much for your time today, and please stay warm out there.